This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
As we watch the sun slowly roll its way up towards the horizon on this beautiful, crisp African morning, welcome to your live safari. So yes, it is a gorgeous morning, very cold and crisp, but we are doing exactly as we suspect the animals will be doing, sitting on a eastwards facing hillside, hoping that the sun will warm us up after a very cold morning. Welcome, Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert, and welcome to Eco Training Pride Lands. And as you said, we are just waiting for it to warm up. You can see I'm quite rugged up at the moment. And we're hoping that a lot of the animals will be doing the same as us, coming out into these relatively open areas to catch those rays. It was very cold yesterday, very cold, very windy, and now it's calm, incredibly calm. In fact, there's hardly a breeze stirring. So from up here, we'll be able to see a lot, or hear a lot as well, of animals. And we've actually had some giraffes walk past a moment ago, and there's one just over there. Ha! Look at that. Our plan is paying off already. It's a bit tricky to see because it's just put its head down underneath all these sickle bushes, but you can just about see it moving in the distance there. You see it's coming straight towards where we are. So hey, see, sometimes it pays off to be patient in the bush. So we're going to wait for the sun to rise as we watch this giraffe come out into the open. It's going to be spectacular for us. Interesting, it's got its head right down in this, some sort of a green bush over there. Maybe a sickle bush that's still got a few green leaves. All of these sparse grey sticks that you see here, none of them are dead. These are all live trees. They've just lost all their leaves in order to keep alive during the cold, dry winter. And the giraffe every now and again looking up towards that sunrise, desperately hoping that the warmth of the sun will come soon for us. Gorgeous. So whilst we watch this giraffe watching the sunrise, we'll send you over to some zebras at Ngala.
Good morning everyone, and a warm welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We have got this beautiful scene of these zebras that are standing on top of a termite mound, and they seem to be looking as if looking towards the sunrise, which is rising behind them, and they're spending the morning feeding around this termite mound. My name is Eric, and behind camera as always is Owen. And just a reminder to please send through all of your questions and comments from Twitter I've just gone blank, at Wild Earth, and at YouTube at Final Control. And then kids, feel free to please send through all of your questions at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And so these zebras have just come up to the top of the termite mound, and they've been feeding around for quite some time. And it seems like it might still be quite an active termite mound, which means that the nutrients are coming from, the termites are bringing them from right down below us all the way up to the top, and it's just providing such a wonderful environment for these grasses to grow nice and nutritious. Let's look at the colors we're seeing this morning, that deep yellow, orange. Those oxpeckers seem very cold. It doesn't look like they started to wake up too much. Seems like they've fed enough, and they're going to start moving on pretty shortly. There's one left that is just munching away around the base of the termite mound still, and it's only a few of them. There's 4 of them I've counted so far, and they all seem to be the same size. But still, apparently you're commenting on all of my layers, and I think I've got about at least 12 different layers, which means that it's probably somewhere in the region of minus 20 degrees Celsius. We're experiencing Antarctic temperatures this morning. No, it's just nice and fresh. I don't like the cold too much, so I prepare myself nicely and I wrap myself like a onion. But I think it's somewhere in the region of about between 6 and 9 degrees, and it's going to warm up very, very quickly. So within the next hour or so, I'll start delayering. Well, I was just mentioning these zebras, 4 of them pretty much exactly the same size. I think it's a group of bachelors that have just formed, and they stick together because they haven't got their own harem that they're looking after, and it's just safety in numbers. So as they start moving on throughout the day, there's a possibility that they could move in between a few different herds of zebras to look for some fillies to take over. So I think Owen and I are going to carry on with our morning and see what else we can find for the day. What a wonderful start. But we'll send you across to Juma. Someone's dying to say hello to everyone.
Good morning and welcome everybody to Juma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we found a relatively cold looking impala. Morning everybody, my name is Steve, I'm joined by Niels on camera, and it is wonderful to be back with all of you. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a wonderful morning. It's a little bit fresh, but it was far fresher when I left last time. So the impala, you can actually see on its back how it is holding the fur. Its fur on its back is actually pushed up. It looks darker than it normally looks. And that is how they keep warm. It's not that cold, but it is fresher than it has been the last few days, Niels tells me. There we go. And you can see she's not concerned at all, is she? Nibbling away at a buffalo thorn. Now we started this morning by just coming out to bumble around, see what we can find, and picked up on a couple of wild dog tracks. So I'm just trying to see where they've gotten to. It looks like at least 3 on our western sort of side, so it's possible they've gone out. I'm just moving around a few roads here. Probably going to cross our boundary shortly and go over to the west and Simbambili to go and have a look at one-eyed pan, see maybe if they are lying up there. I'm not sure if it's the same pair of dogs that we've been seeing in and around the Manuleti area. It's possible it's a completely different group, but without seeing them myself, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Don't forget to send through your questions, everybody. #WildEarth. I'd love to hear from you this morning, and thank you, everybody. It is wonderful to be back. I've been relaxing in Hoedspruit, pretty much in the bush there as well. So it's not too much of a climatization being back, just a little bit of an early morning. But wonderful to be out in the freshness. Wonderful to get out and to explore. And as always, I'm not alone on Juma. Lauren Arthur's out and about, and she'd like to say good day.
Good morning. Welcome to an extremely cold Juma. Apparently it's 9 degrees Celsius, but I think it's possibly colder. My name is Lauren. I do have Davi on camera, and we are looking for Shadulu, who apparently was just on the dam cam, and the usual, as soon as we race around, we can't find her. We have our tracks going down, so I'm wondering if she's in this block. But knowing Shadulu, who is our Duchess from the West, we may need to change that title soon, actually, because she is pushing far into Juma. She's really pushing, and what that means is she's successfully doing so. She's not meeting resistance, so she's not meeting resistance from Tandy, because Tandy is now very much southeast. She's clearly not meeting resistance from Kalamba, which is slightly worrying. I think, well, just my opinion, that Shadulu may become the dominant territorial female of Juma very soon. So she may be the Duchess of Juma. That's actually quite exciting. But not if it means Kalamba does not come here. So we're working on it. We're working very hard to locate her. These animals move incredibly fast. If you're behind them, well, it's not easy. Okay, so I will do my very best. Hopefully the next time you see us, I will have spots. But until then, off you pop to Mike.
So we are having a very beautiful morning, and look at that sun just rising on that horizon. Isn't that gorgeous? The giraffes are just to the left of us, also just appreciating this beautiful sunrise. But it's unbelievable how slowly the sun is rising. The reason we can actually see the sun without it blowing up or the camera picture is because there's a lot of dust haze on the horizon from all the wind that we had, which is blocking a lot of the sun's intensity. So it's a beautiful orange orb. It's a spectacular African sunrise, one of those sunrises that you just can never get enough of every morning. Amazing how far we can see that horizon in the distance. It's all bushveld, everything we can see. Africa is such a land of vast, wild spaces, and yeah, it's such a pleasure, such a privilege to be able to bring it to you. And as it's starting to rise higher, you can see it's starting to get brighter and brighter as it starts to emerge from that dust haze that's just settled on the land. It's only a few hundred meters high, maybe, the dust haze. And so as the sun gets higher out of it, it starts to get brighter and brighter, and the sun's heat will start to warm us all up. And the animals will get more active as well as they warm up. Right now, most of them are staying very, very still, I'm sure, as you've seen in some of the other feeds. And I'm sure that you'll start to see the animals getting more active as those first rays hit them after a very, very cold morning. So the question is, how do animals react to the cold temperatures normally? So, I mean, they won't want to move too much. Remember, in the bush, everything is about energy, conserving heat. And so if it gets very, very cold, animals will usually just hunker down, huddle, stay as warm as possible and not move until the conditions get better. Oh, wow, look at that gorgeousness. Gorgeous. So absolutely, animals won't want to be wasting a lot of energy to keep warm. Remember, most animals are what we call warm-blooded. That's just a very simple term for animals that generate their own heat, and so they need a lot of energy to stay warm. So they'll try and stay as still as possible. There's the giraffes that we had earlier. They've moved to the other side of this clearing, and they're busy feeding on some of these sparse, very thorny bushes. Of course, remember, some animals are not warm-blooded but cold-blooded, which is a very simple term for having to get warmth from the environment around them. And so when it's very, very cold like this, they won't be active at all. The giraffe is able to still be active even though it's very cold, because it's eating, and that eating is constantly creating energy to keep its body warm. But animals like snakes, for example, they have to get the warmth from the environment, so they will be curled up right now, not moving at all, until the sun gets a bit higher and starts to warm up some of the rocks around here, and then snakes and reptiles will be going up onto those rocks to get warmer, and once they've reached a warm enough temperature, they'll get active. That's why we see a lot less activity of insects and reptiles, and because it's just not warm enough for them most of the time in winter. And the giraffes are heading off higher up the slope, further away, still feeding as they go, still enjoying the warmth. They often stand sideways onto the sun, so the maximum amount of their body is being hit by the sunlight and remaining nice and warm. Remember, saving energy on having to warm themselves up. You know, when we shiver, animals do as well. You often see their bodies just shivering a little bit, and that's our body's way of trying to warm ourselves up using mechanical heat, using movement, rather than energy from inside our body. So often when we shiver, we try and stop ourselves from shivering, but we shouldn't. That's our body's way of trying to warm us up. I always find it so interesting how, giraffes are so huge animals, but they can hide in them. There's almost absolutely no leaves in these bushes in front of us, yet we still can hardly see those giraffes. If they were standing still, we'd probably look straight past them. Oh yeah, enjoy that sunrise. So, I don't know, Eric apparently has some giraffes also enjoying the sunrise. Let's see what they're up to.
Yeah, this giraffe has walked from the distance and it's just come closer and closer towards the road. And it's just taken a moment to stop and listen. Within this area here, there's lots and lots of tall grass, and the grass is pretty much, I think he's hiding behind a bush for you, but the grass is roughly up towards its shins, so it's very tall. And I think he might have heard a rustling in the grass, and he's just spending some time listening and looking out to see what it might be before he continues. Whatever it was, he didn't consider a threat, and so he is now moving. And as he starts walking, we will get the view of the backdrop. which is going to be absolutely beautiful because we're looking straight onto the Drakensberg Mountains in the distance. He's just coming into, he's actually going to go have a closer look. And now, just before we went live, we actually saw a small flock of spurfowls. I think it was a Swainson spurfowl, and about 5 of them flew from the road away from us and landed into the bushes, and so I think that's exactly what he's checking out at the moment. There's lots of zebra slightly off to the right of us that he's just glanced over at, and so if those zebra aren't really showing any signs, then he seems, or he should seem, pretty relaxed. And so I think he's just checking out that voice, the noise, and then he'll carry on walking. And there's a zebra, and then there's those mountains that I mentioned in the background. And it's such a crisp, clear day today. We really got such a beautiful view of them. And so we decided to come down into this area. If you were watching the drive with Nikki yesterday, you would have seen a wonderful sighting of those lions, and it looked like they were very, very hungry, or at least trying to find something to eat. So that's why we decided to head in that direction to see if we can intercept where they might have moved off, see if they managed to make a kill, see if there's any changes towards the pride. I do believe that the youngest lioness with the brand new cubs is there. Andrew, I definitely agree with you. The colors are really, really spectacular at this time of morning, especially in the winter time. So I'd really love to see the newest additions to that pride of lions that we've seen. So we're going to probably move on from here. And whilst we're driving looking for those lions, we'll send you across to Pind, who's got a nice early morning surprise.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. My name is Clive, and behind the camera this morning we have Marcel. And we came out this morning because yesterday afternoon, when Dumi was out with you guys, he came straight out and found these cheetah. And so we came straight back to the area and managed to find them quite quickly again. Now, I'm sure you've spent a bit of time with these cheetah in the last few days, or I know you have. And it's the mother with her 2 little young cubs. As you can see, they're looking very, very skinny still. Especially that little cub that's just gotten up now and just stood up. And even the mother, you can see while she's lying down, her belly is very, very empty. Now, we had our doubts when we left the lodge this morning. It's extremely windy here this morning. Oh, look at the big stretch. Yeah, it's extremely windy here this morning. And so we weren't sure if these cheetah had moved. Also, when we got quite close, there were some lion tracks all around where the cheetah were. So we knew that last night the lions must have either chased the cheetah or the cheetah saw them coming and hopefully just moved away before they got anywhere close. But we had a pretty good idea that they had moved, but luckily 1 or 2 roads later we just came across them resting in this little open patch. JT, so even though they've got all these little adaptations to help them hunt as the best they possibly can, it's still very, very tough for them. So it doesn't look like they've had anything yet. Now, I've actually been on leave for about a week or so, but I hear a couple of days ago, I think they killed an impala, but if I'm not mistaken, maybe Marcel will know, I think the lions stole it from them or something. Did that happen?
We don't know.
Okay. Well, somehow the lions ended up with the impala, so they probably chased the cheetah off. And that means the cheetah didn't get their snack the other day. Rowan, they definitely are a few sleepy heads this morning, but it's very cold. We had that big cold front coming in yesterday, as I'm sure most of you know. So it's quite cold this morning and windy, so these cheetah are just curled up in a ball trying to keep a bit warm and trying to stay safe, which is probably why they've chosen this nice big open area here, because they can now see all around them. On a windy day like this, where their senses might not be as good, they're not going to be able to hear what's around them. You can see the mother's constantly looking around quite nervously, her ears pinned back. So she's trying, but it's hard to have all her senses about her and check that there's no danger coming. But that's why they're lying in a nice big open area, so they can see all around them and hopefully have a better chance of hearing. Well, I think I'm going to sit here a little bit longer and try and wait for the sun to start warming us up, as these cheetah I think are going to do. And while we do that, we'll let you carry on with your safari.
So we're still following these 3 giraffes as they slowly move from that open area amongst these sparse knob thorns. Most of these knob thorns don't have any leaves left anymore, so they're kind of wandering from tree to tree, just having a bit of a nibble here and there. I'm sure most of these trees most of these leaves rather, don't taste very good, because they're getting drier now and they're not having all the nutrients that they would normally have. So that one giraffe has just stopped there. You see how it's stopped and staring forward? It's often, oh my goodness, that giraffe is just motoring its way through the thickest of fallen bushes. So they've stopped there and they're staring in a direction. So often that's a sign for us just to see what they're looking at. The others too are still feeding. There's been no communication of any sort to say that there's something super dangerous that it's seen. Often just a little duiker or a warthog is trotting off and the giraffes just stare off at it just to make sure that it's nothing particularly dangerous. But even though giraffes are very big, they still have to be quite wary of any predators. They can be hunted by lions occasionally, not often. Look at those ears, funneling sound from behind and from all around to make sure that nothing is sneaking up behind it. But often they'll put their ears back as well, not to get them caught on thorns and things. Emerson is asked if giraffes, or how much food giraffes eat, and if they can overeat. I'm sure a giraffe probably eats a lot of food, and I'm sure that they can not overeat, but they can eat themselves so that they're very full. Because remember, they are ruminants. Ruminants meaning that they have a 4-chambered stomach, meaning they've got 4 stomachs, and when they need to fill the first one up, and then over the day when it's very hot and they don't want to be out in the sun, they go into the shade and then they just regurgitate or bring up the food that they haven't chewed enough, and they chew it again and again and again. So they do fill themselves very, very full. I don't think they can overeat though. Not like a lot of our domestic animals, or fish. I think I know a lot of friends who have fish, and they always tell me when I'm staying over their houses, don't feed the fish, don't overfeed them, because they'll just keep eating until they pop, basically. It's not going to happen to a giraffe. It won't feed itself until it pops, maybe uncomfortably full. Not at this time of year, though. At this time of year, there's not a lot of green stuff, so they're just keeping themselves fed enough to survive, if that's a way to put it. And quite a lot, though. Quite a lot. No, they can drink about 40 to 80 liters of water a day, depending if they can find the water. They've got a huge capacity for water. I'm not sure about the food, though. It's a good one. I'll actually have to look that up, and if we find some more giraffes later on, I'll have the answer for you by that point. Does anyone else know how much giraffes eat? It's a fair amount, but they do say a little goes a long way because of its long neck. You get it? Anyway, that's my dad joke for the morning. Emerson, I'll get you that answer as soon as I can have a chance to look it up. Exactly how much do giraffes eat during a day? It's a good question. I like those kind of questions. Pushes my knowledge boundaries. As you can see, the giraffes moving off there into the thickets where they can find any of the green bushes. I'm going to try and move us forward just a tad, just to see if we can get one more little look at them before they disappear. I'm glad you're enjoying the dad jokes. So Gert is actually a king, a master of dad jokes. He's been telling a few to me, and I'm just retelling them for you. I'm going to try and see how many I can get through in a day. So there's the giraffes again, just moving off to the left of us, looking back towards us. Also just enjoying the last of this beautiful golden rays. Oh, I've parked us exactly with a branch in its face. There you go. Gorgeous to watch them walking off there into the bushveld, happy as anything, enjoying this lovely morning. So what we're going to do now, whilst we leave these giraffes in search of greener pastures, so to speak, we're going to send you over to Pinda with some cheetah.
Welcome back again, and as you can see, not much has happened yet with these cheetah. Still just sitting in quite a tight little ball. You can see those two cubs are lying very close together, trying to get a bit of extra body warmth in there. And the sun is just creeping over some of these trees, some of the clouds in the far distant east there. But I just want to show you the color in these clouds moving over. You can probably also see how quickly the clouds are moving, and there's quite a wind blowing in from our southern side, which is bringing this cold front and bringing these clouds. There's snow over a lot of South Africa at the moment. I know you saw some snow in the Kalahari yesterday, which is quite something. When I saw that, I was amazed. Didn't even know that could happen. I think that's the best part about this, is being able to see all the different reserves and the different diversity around this beautiful country we live in. Oh, look at this though. All three of those cheetah with their eyes tight shut. Rosemary, I'm glad you like the colors in that sky. It really is quite something. Really pretty colors. Unfortunately for us on the ground here, that wind has got a little icy bite to it. Safari lover, these cheetah, as I say, they're very, very hungry now. You can see those very skinny bellies and the empty bellies. But if they have to, they could go even more than a week without eating. Probably even 2 weeks if they really, really had to. At a wild guess, it looks like these cheetah haven't eaten for about five or so days. That's a bit of a guess off the top of my head. I'm just judging by how skinny they are. And if they had to, they can go quite a bit longer without eating. But obviously, this is starting to get to a time when they need to find something. They wouldn't often go more than a week or so without eating. But I've seen it before, where you find a cheetah and it's very skinny and very hungry, and you follow it for the morning game drive. You go back that afternoon and you follow it for the afternoon game drive, and 2 or 3 days later you see it again and it's still very skinny. So yeah, it's really not easy for them. You think, oh, cheetah, when it's hungry, it'll just go and catch something. Easy for them. You can see the sun is just hitting the grass right in front of them, between us and the cheetah. And it'll probably still be another 10 or 15 minutes for it to get above the tree that's casting the shadow over the cheetah. So I wonder if they won't get up and move into the sun, or they'll just be patient and wait it out and wait for the sun to hit them. Aline, you're saying it's hard to see if the cheetah is skinny. They are very sleek animals anyway, but when they have just eaten something. You might have seen before, you can see it. It looks like they've swallowed a soccer ball. They just eat and eat and eat, and their belly just swells up. And it looks huge. When they lie on their side, it just bulges out. So so you're right, it is tough to see when they're skinny. Oh, look at that big yawn. Wow. Often that's actually a sign that they might get up and move. So I wonder if she won't move into the sun, like I was saying. Sometimes she'll just get up and walk even 2 or 3 meters after a yawn. Let's see what happens. A little bit of a clean, another yawn. Ooh, I think she's going to move a little bit. Although I don't think the cubs want to go anywhere just yet. Although they've probably got growling, hungry bellies, so maybe she does. Maybe they do want the mom to get up and hunt. Oh yeah, this cheetah's in a proper little Sunday mood here. Nice and relaxing. I hope a lot of you are still relaxing in bed as well, watching us. Oh, and another yawn. Did you see the size of her little canine teeth there? And in comparison to, I'm sure, again, on these safaris, you've seen leopard or lion yawning. And the size of a leopard or a lion's canines is much, much bigger than a cheetah. I mean, a cheetah's is probably a quarter of the size of a lion's, if not even less. And that's all part, again, they don't need the strength of a lion or a leopard. They want that lightest weight as possible to be able to run as fast as possible and have that little edge over the impala or nyala. So their teeth are just straight away, they're a lot smaller because they don't need that extra strength. But anyway, speaking of cats, we're going to send you across to Lauren quickly, who's with a leopard.
Hi, we can hear hyenas vocalizing. So I'm going to just go up to this termite mound and I'm going to switch off and listen. This is where we think Shadulu went in, so let's have a listen. Okay, we think it's possibly coming from round this way. But what you've got to factor in, and sometimes people forget, is the cold air makes sound travel much further and sort of clearer, if you like, and therefore you can think that sounds are closer than they actually are. They're definitely coming from this block. Just gonna go around here and then turn off again. There's impala over there. Let's just take a look at if they look alert.
I can't make them out.
Brian, yes, impalas do tell us a story. We're just trying to listen. The minute we hear that sound again, we can follow the direction. It's giggling. Hyenas giggle. And that's why they're known as laughing. And it's a nervous sound, so they're really not finding anything funny. They're not giggling at a good old joke. It's when the hyenas are nervous, and normally it can happen around a carcass when they've got competition. Okay, I'm gonna focus on this task in hand and try and find whatever's making the noise. I'm gonna send you guys back across to Mike.
Okay. So we're driving over this crest where we had seen the giraffes before, because it's nice and warm here. And as we got over the rise, we came across this incredible sight of the Drakensberg Escarpment, the northern Drakensberg Escarpment, and it's gorgeous because of all the cold, windy weather we had. It's blown all the dust out of the sky and further down, and now we've got this clear view of the mountain. It's unbelievable. Don't often get to see it, or especially the last few days with the wind. It's been very difficult to actually see the mountain. So now it's nice to get a clear view of it as it rises up almost 2,000 meters above sea level. Right now where we're sitting is probably around 500, so that's almost 1,500 meters higher than where we are right now, and it's incredible. There's a whole different selection of plants and animals up there that you just don't even, and birds as well, that you just don't even see down here, and it's very close to us, maybe just 20 kilometers away. So it's really wonderful. And that's the Drakensberg Escarpment. And in fact, that peak that we're looking at right now is called Mariepskop, and it is the highest point on this section of the Drakensberg Mountains. And the Drakensberg extends its way all the way south into the south and eastern part of South Africa. So it's a huge mountain range. In fact, the biggest mountain range in South Africa. Oh, there's some beautiful hornbills flying across there as well. And yeah, so this is the smallest part of the Drakensberg, but this is the tallest peak of this part of the Drakensberg. So it's absolutely spectacular. So if you ever come to visit us over here, it's definitely worth heading up to the mountain as well. The beautiful views. And in fact, you can see one of the amazing viewpoints, one of the sort of famous points, which is called the Three Rondavels. So just to the right of the screen there, you can see that pointed little peak. That's one of the Rondavels. Melody, it is a beautiful scene. It's absolutely incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen it before in real life. I mean, the camera is doing an amazing job at doing it justice, but it's just so much more spectacular if you actually get to climb up there and look down upon the beautiful Lowveld. It's amazing. So that pointed peak there is called one of the Rondavels, and there's 3 of those kind of pointed peaks. And what's interesting is that, you know, traditional Southern African homes built, you know, before we had modern materials would have been thatched roofs, which looked like that, rounded little huts with a little pointed apex. So that's why it's quite one of the famous viewpoints. And yeah, so we saw some trumpeter hornbills the other day, and there along the mountain there's rivers, and that's where the hornbills would have come from. They're just visiting us here. Speaking of hornbills, we're going to send you over to a chilly one with Steve.
Thank you very much. We have indeed found the early bird, the yellow-billed hornbill. Such a statesman this morning, standing there in the sunshine, trying to balance a little bit on his stick. It has been quite fresh this morning, everybody. So the birds, this is what they do in the early morning. They will wake up and they will go and perch somewhere in the sunshine and do a little bit of scratching and grooming and cleaning themselves, righting any feathers that might have got a bit ruffled in the sleep, so as to maximize their efficiency when it comes to flying in the daytime. There we go, nice little bit of an armpit tickle. We all love a bit of an armpit tickle, don't we? I'm just going to keep quiet for a moment so you can listen to the bird party that is around us. Green tutus. rattling cisticula, blue waxbill. There were some arrowmark babblers as well a moment ago. And a blackback puffback. A brew as well. Birds were really all around us. We talk about the dawn chorus. Many people love waking up and going, oh, I'm so amazed to hear the birds in the morning. And they wonder what the dawn chorus is all about. And essentially the dawn chorus is the birds have survived the night. They have survived being eaten and killed by owls, snakes and nocturnal predators. And now they are reclaiming territory through song. So what we're actually hearing is death threats and shouts of warning. I always think it's quite beautiful. Wonderful to just sit and enjoy a bit of birding in the morning. Chin spot batters. You can hear a brown crowned chagra as well. Emma says into my ear, those are some pretty sounding death threats. Yes, they are. They are. Birds, for the most part, use their vocals for territory. Most mammals will use either a type of scent marking or some vocals, but majority of the time scent marking is the order of the day in mammals. Lilac-breasted roller will do some dive bombing and some display. Some birds will do display as well. But very often when you see display in the form of bright feathers or long tails or dances, it's not really to do with the territory in birds. It's more to do with a male trying to vie for sort of a female attention. So you'll get a number of males performing a similar dance or display in an area. And the male with the prettiest adornments or longest tail or the best dance, he always wins the show. And you can spend time with those birds and you can try and identify the difference between two birds or three males. And you won't personally be able to notice any difference between them. But yet, time after time, different females will pick the same male. So it's that selectivity within a bird species that has led to the elaborateness of what has become so many various sorts of display methods, adornments, tail lengths. Really, excuse me, really is quite a fascinating world. Well, very good. We're going to carry on down the road here. We're just on Simbambili. We have got Simbambili watering hole to have a quick little look at. See if there's any sign of anything hanging around. Watering holes are the order of the day out here. That's where the animals are going to be hanging out. Okay, well, very good. I think it is time for Tswalu to be out and about. I'm sure it is pretty cold over that side, so let's go and say good morning.
Good morning from a blustery morning, an incredibly cold morning out here at Tswalu. Look at the sand. Look how this wind is absolutely pumping this morning. It is very, very cold. We have a real field temperature of -4 degrees, -3, -4 degrees this morning, and the wind is just howling out here. You can see this, the way the sand is getting kicked up there,
And we're going to go out to the meerkats. It is just another beautiful day out here, even when it's windy, even when it's cold. Old Gendre on camera is always there. He's doing this absolute justice. And for those who haven't met, my name's Dylan. And it's just great that you can actually be with us on this journey again. We're going to head up to the meerkats, see what they're up to. And I hope you're all sitting snug and warm somewhere with coffee or tea and just enjoying it, because this is a beautiful day out here. You can't change the weather, so just work with the weather and enjoy it. Yeah, and you can see it even on the water. I mean, look at the ripples there. Yeah, we can go windsurfing on here today. We're not going to try it, and don't challenge us, please. Okay, but look at that. Yowzers. It would be fun to swim in there, though, I reckon. But yeah, so we're going to just drive around a little bit. We're not going to go straight to the meerkats now, because they're not going to be getting out of bed just yet. They're going to be tucked under for quite a while yet, I think. So we're just going to amble around, see what else we can find. Unfortunately, tracking this morning is going to be incredibly difficult just because of this wind that's been blowing. And yeah, there's very, very little sign of animal activity or fresh animal activity that we can see. But yeah, it's just going to be an amazing day out there. I already know it. I have got nothing in particular planned, but yeah, it's going to be good. Going to be good and going to be fun. Yeah, there's nothing out here. Someone parked in the bush.
We've got an African hawk eagle here, which is sitting perched so perfectly on this dead branch, looking in the grass for anything that's scuttling around. But it's actually more likely just catching the warmth, to be honest. That's what it's interested in catching right now. But it is looking around. See that? Every now and again, just looking around for anything moving about. It was actually quite close to the road, and it's just coursing its way through the grass. You know, every now and again, it just flies to the next tree, to the next tree. Wonderful. These are often in pairs. I don't know if you've all seen an African hawk eagle before. They're not rare birds, but we don't get to see them too often. And they're in a pair more often than not. Oh, it looks like it's gonna fly off. There it goes. Of course. So this one is doing something interesting. It's flying low to the ground, staying low, landing on trees nearby, and often in the pair, they will actually have one that's flying very high in the sky. In fact, there's the second one flying off to the left of it. I just see it now. I don't know if you'll see it in the camera. It's very far away. But often there'll be one that flies high, and then one that's low. And then the one that's low down flushes the birds out of the bushes, and the one that's high in the sky will often then see them and catch them. It's interesting. They work as a team. So there's, you can see both of them. Gerard, very well done. I didn't even see where they had been. So yeah, so they're both, they're male and female most likely. The larger one will be the female. So it looks like the one on the left might be slightly larger. That might be the female. And yes, whichever one stays low flushes the birds out, and then the one that's higher up catches them, and they feed together. Or sometimes the opposite. I've even heard of African hawk eagles sometimes landing on the ground and walking into a thicket to flush things out. How crazy is that? Literally getting on the ground and walking with its feet, not flying, just walking along into the bush, scaring out whatever's hiding in the bush, and the other one catches it. It's mad to think that they have such good cooperation. It's quite unusual to have birds hunting together like that. The question about whether birds eat, so obviously the early bird does catch the worm, and it's a figure of speech, but also quite true. These particular birds, the African hawk eagles, would not be eating worms. They don't have the tools to eat worms. But other birds like Hardida ibis or African hoopoes, which have a long, straight, thin bill, used for probing. They'll poke their bill into the soft earth around dams and rivers, and they'll be able to feel little worms and catch them and snap them up. So certainly some birds do eat worms. African hawk eagles eat a whole variety of vertebrate prey, meaning that anything that has a backbone and moves around, so lizards and mammals, maybe even birds. So it's a very apt and incredible hunter. Oh, this one's about to take off, I think. It was just jettisoning some excess weight. If you saw it there, just defecated, and often they do that just before they take off, so that they're as light as a feather. No pun intended there. And once they do so, they'll fly, and yes, one of them's headed off ahead, so it's probably flushing out whatever is around, and this one is waiting. If something would expose itself to escape from the first one, the second one. I've never actually seen a hawk eagle catch anything like that, but it would be amazing to witness a full hunt. Oh, and there they go. So they've flown off a bit too far for us to follow them. So we're going to enjoy these early birds, not catching worms, and see what else we can find.
All of that talk about breakfast has started to make me hungry. So we are now basically directly parallel to that big Timbavati river, so it's to the left of us. We've done a quick little loop. It is a lot more dense than where we started this morning, but what we're essentially looking for is to see if the tracks of the lions are coming in this direction, so to see whether they've come more in a southerly direction from where they were heading last night. And by the looks of things, they still are potentially north of the river, which is pretty exciting for us. It sounds like if anything, they might have been heading down towards one of the larger waterholes that we have in that side of the reserve. So one of the tracking teams, Barney and the crew, are out, and they've just found some tracks heading almost straight, so parallel to the opposite way that we're going. And so we're going to slowly start making our way into that area. I don't want to rush there in case we see something else. I mean, is the potential seeing a nice big group of birds in this area. We've had we might be able to see them, and then of course in this beautiful environment, nice and dense, we are looking for any tracks or signs of any leopard that might have been moving through this area recently. So I don't want to just get tunnel vision and shoot straight towards one animal. Yeah, so whilst we try and look for all of those wonderful animals, we'll send you across to Lauren and see if she's got anything for us.
I don't have any animals, but I'm trying. I'm trying very hard today. Today is my last day for a while, and I want to see spots. Either spotted hyenas or leopards. And just to know that Shadulu was just there, it's rather frustrating. We didn't have any luck in the block, so I am going to quickly pop to the hyena den, because not a single hyena was present yesterday. Not one. Not Ribbon, not Corky, and none of the cubs. So I'm just going to check and see who's about. And then I think we'll stay really local and hope that Shadulu reveals herself. She's coming far more east from her original territory than she ever has. I think James had her the other day really, really far east on Juma. So Shadulu's definitely expanding, testing the waters, and I think she's getting ready to give up a section of her own territory to Kara, who's her daughter, which is completely normal for female leopards. Not for males. Male leopards are completely different, but female leopards, they do sort of give a portion of their territory to their daughters, and then they shift and reallocate, if you like. Males do not. Tingana was never going to give any of his territory to Hosanna, and that's why Hosanna had to disperse. He had no choice. So female leopards' territories will always border one another. Nancy, are you referring to my lovely decoration, making Wendy look slightly better than it does? Yes, it looks good. Not intentional at all, but I like it. I think I'm going to keep it. We cleaned the cars yesterday, but I think I'm going to keep that, Nancy. Shadulu will pop out. She will. Especially if she's on territorial patrol. I think it's highly unlikely when the temperatures are this cold that she'll just sit down for a nap. She'll keep moving. Just like humans, if we move, we generate heat and we keep ourselves warm when it's really, really cold. So I think she'll still be on the move unless she caught something. If she caught something, then that's a different story. She'll obviously be eating it, which will also generate some heat, metabolic heat, to keep her nice and warm. I just had my banana and peanut butter way earlier than I normally would with that thinking that I can generate some heat. It's not worked so far, I'm afraid. Okay, and we're going to pop into the hyena den. My hands are slowly starting to warm up. I would really like to see all the little cubbies today, so fingers crossed. People are at the drain. Leap, I know. I actually think the female sort of territory movement is fascinating. Tandy's shifting down, Shadulu's shifting in, Tlalamba's just staying on the outskirts. It's really, really fascinating. I don't think Sabui comes in anymore. I love visualizing the territories. What I don't love at the minute is the male dynamics. We've been talking about that a lot in camp, and Mowati really has pushed out Tingana and Hook. It breaks my heart. I really don't know if we'll see Tingana again. I know, can you believe it? Haven't had any updates on Tingana. A lot of you are asking me. We really do give you updates when we hear them, but I haven't heard anything on Tingana. I think he's fine. I think he's just found a beautiful spot in Bufosuk, and he's just taking it easy up there. Mowati really has thrown a huge spanner in the works. He really has. It may change again. I mean, territories are fluid, dynamic, they're always changing, but at this very point in time, oh, hi guys. I am so happy right now. I'm gonna just drive really, really slowly. Hello. Yesterday was obviously just a rest day, huh? Okay, Darby, I think I'm just going to turn in here like this for now. It's not ideal. You can see the shadow of our car. We'll reposition in just a bit. So this is good old Ribbon and her 2 bundles of joy, now officially named, if anybody missed it, Shimbulu and Ngwazi. I can imagine being snuggled up. I can imagine being snuggled up like this together would be so ideal on a cold morning. They're squittering. Now, the one on the right, as you're looking, the slightly darker one, that's Shimbulu. Yes. That means to have heart. This darker one got a darker face as well. That's Shimbulu. And the one on the left, who you can't really see right now, is slimmer, taller, marginally, and much paler and lighter in the face. That's Ngwazi, which means adventurous. And I think Ngwazi is the more dominant one at this stage. I could be wrong, but just watching their interactions, I feel like Ngwazi is the more dominant one. Ribbon and her 2 boys. They'll soon be 4 months old. Good, sir, you're saying there's our favourite hyena family. Yes, my favourite too. And no one was at the den yesterday, no one. And I firmly believe that Ribbon left the den. She went hunting or scavenging, and the cubs just rested. And that's why we saw no one, so we start to panic when we don't see them. but she's also preparing the cubs for a future of feast and famine. The lifestyle of the predators out here works that way. They don't always get access to food. They've got to find it. We're so used to having 3 meals a day. It doesn't work like that out in the wild. So I think yesterday Ribbon was probably stocking up. And that's why we didn't see anybody. I've still not seen Corky. That situation baffles me. But I did come here very early one day, almost 6 o'clock on the dot, and she was corked in the hole. So I do wonder if she's just being a nocturnal mama at this point in time. Is she avoiding Ribbon? Is she not? It's a question on everybody's mind. I originally thought no, because it's a communal den, but then there's a large possibility she could be, I guess. And maybe she's not directly avoiding her. Maybe it's just she just allows Ribbon to be there during the day, and she comes in at night time, so there's a constant security guard, there's a constant babysitter. Of course, they won't think of it like that, but maybe that's the sort of natural progression of how they operate around the den. There's only 2 mothers. And Ribbon is the matriarch after all. So if Ribbon wants to plonk her bottom down during the day, then that's exactly what Ribbon will do. The best hyena family ever. I'm so proud of how this clan is. The clan has survived through really difficult times and they're still going strong. Mythical, you're saying, what a cute scene. It is. I don't give it long until these 2 bundles start jumping around on Mum's head, her tummy, causing trouble once their tummies are full. And Ribbon's not had the sort of best luck with cubs. She has lost a few, I'm afraid. And it's just so lovely to see that this pair has made it to almost 4 months old, and they're going strong. And it seems like Corky only had 1. Did 1 die? Or did she just give birth to 1? I really don't know, and I guess we'll never know. We will try to reposition in just a moment to give you a better view. But I don't want to disturb them right now. So as I sit here and watch this gorgeous scene, we're going to send you guys across to Eric.
We've also got quite a gorgeous scene here. These impalas are starting to get more and more active, and so we've seen a couple of them grooming one another. We've seen a couple of them with a little bounce in their step this morning. They all seem to be just feasting before what looks like a pretty hot day is going to start. And just see the very, very tall trees in the background. There's the bank of the river and this big beautiful clearing, and it's always good to come and check here, and especially at this time of morning. I always say it's just so nice to just sit quietly for a little bit and just listen. So listen for alarm calls, listen for anything that might kind of give you an indication of the animals that we're looking for. I'm sure these impalas, after feeding, are going to find a place to drink, and when they drink, they'll have to walk quite far before coming out into another open area like this in the evening time. It does seem like there's a male that's made its way into the scene, and he's got his tail erect. You can see that white that's puffing out there, and that's usually the typical sign of him being in the rut, which is very, very late in the season. And we're seeing this behavior less and less frequently at this time of year. But you still see he's got his head down. It looks like he's trying to herd that female. And there might be one or two females that weren't able to fall pregnant, but the majority of them hopefully will be pregnant at this time of year. So this male is probably just trying to live out the last days of his glory, I guess. George honey badgers, I don't think hunt impalas. There might be one or two very, very odd records of it, but it's very unlikely, and it's just because it's just a size issue. I mean, these impalas outweigh a honey badger by probably about 10 times or so, so it's just an impossible feat. Not to say that a honey badger would take the opportunity to scavenge off an impala. Definitely. You see this male's really going full swing. Must be one of the later ruts that I've heard. I mean, I think the last time I've been trying to take note of when the last time I heard a rutting call, and that was about, I think, on the 7th or the 8th of July. So this is almost a week after. And even here, those oxpeck is flushing up from where he's been chasing the females around a little bit more. Here he comes again, crossing the road. It is such an unusual sound. Okay, so that male, I think, is going to continue chasing these females around. But I think I am going to move on from here. It doesn't seem like there's too much else happening around this impala herd. So we'll send you across to Tswalu, who's got a much bigger animal to say hello.
Yeah, so apparently we're playing catch up this morning so, with these giraffe at sunrise, but it is always a beautiful, beautiful sighting. And apparently one of the questions earlier, just on a slightly different topic, was about honey badgers and impala. Would honey badgers catch impala? Honey badgers would 100% go for impala lambs. So newborn lambs that are hidden, honey badger gets one of them, they will take them. There's no question about that. And it has been well recorded them catching small lambs of various species. Adult impala, totally different story. I'd be impressed if a honey badger managed to get anywhere close to an adult impala. But what a setting this is this morning, eh? And that's the thing, you can't change the weather, so let's just enjoy it, eh? Wind is still blowing, but it's kind of blowing in gusts now, so I'm hoping it'll settle a little bit later in the day. This is quite a dramatic landscape to see giraffe. Totally different to what you'd normally be seeing them in. JP has asked, are there any poisonous trees? In terms of giraffe and what they feed on and that. And there is one where we don't get it here. It's where our colleagues working, they've actually got numbers of them down there. It's a tree called a tamboti, and it's actually a remarkable tree in many different regards. But that tree is very, very toxic, the leaves, but a number of species do browse on it, including giraffe. I've seen giraffe feeding on that species as well. Not in large quantities, but they do. And also things like black rhino and porcupines and all the bark and that. So, one of the survival things is, a lot of people say, watch what some animals do, like things like monkeys and baboons. If they can eat it, you can eat it. I wouldn't even try that at all. That's maybe in a very, very broad sense, but often animals have a much higher tolerance, or their gut fauna is specifically adapted for helping break down toxins, and so that's very different to ours. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend eating things just because an animal can eat it. But in terms of what we got at Tswalu, we've got no tree species here that our giraffe are feeding on that would be toxic to people. I mean, you can go gnaw on any of these trees here pretty much. There are one or two that I definitely wouldn't recommend. But
Alright, so we've been following these cheetah for the last half an hour or so. They've started moving, and you can see the two youngsters are lying down in the grass now, and the mother's just off a bit further from them. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, these cheetah have been, we've been following them the whole drive so far, and when we first found them, they were very, very skinny. You can't really see it now too well, but they're very, very skinny and very hungry, so they are off on the hunt now. The mother is moving ahead of the youngsters, obviously with the youngsters trailing behind and watching her every move and learning. And she's just looking out for anything she might be able to catch. Now, where they popped out, we lost them for about 15 or 20 minutes in quite a thick area. And where they popped out, there was actually a herd of impala 100 meters away from them, but just behind some trees, so the cheetah weren't able to see them, unfortunately for them. And I suppose fortunately for the impala. Now these cubs are at an age, they're probably in the region of 7 months now, I think, 7 or 8 months. And they are in that time of their life when they're going to have to start learning the little ins and outs of hunting. And that's exactly why, while the mom is out hunting, they are following behind and just watching her and learning from her. It's going to be a very, very important skill to have, obviously, for them. Sir 50, they've actually been, for the last 15 or 20 minutes or so, they've been walking into the wind, which does make sense because then their smell's not going to be carried down the wind onto the whatever it is they're wanting to hunt. With them walking into the wind, they are obviously going to keep whatever's in front of them. They won't be able to smell the cheetah coming, which makes sense, but the cheetah won't also use that smell to hunt. So they won't smell an impala and say, oh, okay, there's an impala there, let's go. They rely more on their hearing and definitely more on their sight. You can see how nervous they are in the wind though, like especially these youngsters, they constantly looking around. Hunter, yeah, they will definitely take any opportunity if it's there. If there's maybe a scrub hare, a rabbit, if there's a scrub hare or a mongoose or I've even seen them chasing birds before, and it's not really things that they will eat, birds anyway, but it's more just for practice. They're just practicing their stalking abilities and then their sprinting, their running and sprinting abilities. But for them to actually catch something, it's very, very rare. But what will happen in the next couple of months is that the mother will catch something and just injure it enough so that it can't get away, and then she will leave it to the cubs, which sounds really cruel if you want to put it that way, but it's so important for the cubs to learn. You know, they play with it, they kind of let it go and they chase it quickly and catch it, and they practice putting their mouth around the throat and killing the animal. And unfortunately it often takes quite a long time, but they do get it right, and it's very good practice for them But I have also seen it before. I think, if I remember right, it was a mother with 3 cubs that were a bit older than these ones. And she chased and she caught a big male impala. And she thought, and she held it down on the ground for quite a while and obviously suffocated it, and it must have been quite close to dying. And she gave it to the cubs. She said, right, you guys finish it off now. And the cubs went, and the one grabbed its throat, and the others started like almost playing with it a little bit. And the cub just let go for a split second, and that impala jumped up and sprinted off quickly. And he actually ended up surviving. And I'm sure the mother cheetah was not pleased with her cubs for letting a meal get away like that. But that's all part of their learning, as I say. So this is a very important part of their life. And even, I know they've been very playful over these last few days. Yeah, I know you've seen them playing a lot as well. And that's also all part of their learning, and them chasing each other. All very good experience for them. But yeah, I'm going to stick with them and see what else happens this morning, because they're definitely on the move and on the hunt.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Old Gendre has been absolutely drooling all over his camera about these giraffe shots with this backlight. And it is a very, very, very pretty sight. Not Gendre drooling, the giraffe. But that is always a special thing for those of you who enjoy photography. To get backlight is an absolute privilege. Sometimes you just got to really try to work those angles in order to get it. But we've been very, very lucky here. There's a group of probably about 6 or 7 different giraffe in this immediate vicinity that we're in over here, so it was actually not that difficult. So that tree that giraffe is feeding on is called a camel thorn tree, and it's one of the very, very, very common species in the area, and super palatable, very high in protein. And it's one of the important food plants for a lot of animals out here, a lot of the browsing species out here. In fact, I think I'd have to check it up, but I recall the original name, the species name, was giraffe, referring to the giraffe feeding on it. Ooh, Annie's asked a really nice question there. Annie's question is, do giraffe have a alarm call or any kind of sound that they make? Giraffe have actually, they generally regarded as silent animals, but they've got actually quite a wide range of sounds. One of the most remarkable instances I've ever seen of giraffe making a sound was many, many years ago. I watched 2 male cheetah catch a giraffe calf. Young calf, probably 2 months old at the most. And these 2 male cheetah would actually, the one would chase the mother, not to catch her, but actually drive her away from the calf, while the other one was pulling the calf down. And then the first one would come back, help the other male, try to suffocate it, and then the mother giraffe would keep on running in, but she'd run in with her neck down at 45 degrees, her front legs just like flailing and kicking, and she makes this incredible growling / roaring throaty sound. Absolutely unbelievable. And those cheetah that played out 3 times. They had that calf flat on the ground. Once the mother would chase them off, then they took it down again, mother would chase them off, and after the 3rd time the mother actually walked away with that calf tucked up right against her chest, kind of herding it. So coming back to your question about sound, so giraffe can be vocal. They have got the ability to make sounds, but generally they are very quiet, very silent animals. They do make a kind of snorting alarm sound, a very soft sound. We actually heard that. Well, we were sitting at that dam, that little stakeout hide or blind that we've got at the dam. There was one female that came in and was very aware that we were sitting there, and she wasn't quite happy. That she was like, something's not right over there behind those branches, and she was making this lovely little like snorting sound, something like that. I'm a bad imitator, but anyway. But what a morning. So we're just taking our time getting down to the meerkats. They're about 10 minutes away from where we are now. But our meerkat habituator, Veronique, she has gone down there already. She'll keep us updated. But when we finish with this giraffe, we'll amble down that way. It's just with this wind and this temperature, I don't think there's going to be any huge rush. Although my luck will be, we get there and those pups all dancing around on the sand. But I suspect not. Hey, what a morning, eh? Yes. I hope you're all still nice and warm wherever you are in the world. Tucked up in bed with your fleeces on. Nice hot cup of coffee maybe. Or wherever you may be. Just, it's great having you along. Lulu says, what a picture. And it really, really, really is. This is Africa. Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. I always say one day I should work here. One day when I'm big. So if you all just lean forward, if you just touch the center of your screen, whatever you're watching, your iPad, your TV, just touch the center of your screen and see what happens.
Touching the screen, your fingers are probably going to freeze off. It's so cold over in Tswalu. I do feel for those guys that side, but they do seem to just take it, don't they? So just take it on the chin. I don't know if I could deal with a -4 degrees. Woo! I've done that when I've gone snowboarding, but then you're wearing layers and layers and layers. Okay, so everybody, we are officially back on Djuma. We did a little exploration of Simbambili, which was quite nice, but it was pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet. Some nice birds. We're coming back on, just going to ascertain what's been happening. Haven't been here for 3 weeks, so much going on, so it's nice to re-establish and sort of drive the roads, see what tracks there are. A whole lot of wildebeest through this area. We're just coming onto the open area of quarantine. This is the nice open area over here. I know the sun's a bit bright, but beautiful plains here. Often a very nice home for our wildebeest and zebras. They're normally always in Impala. This sort of access road that I'm checking now is always a good place to check, because we are going to be coming around towards the dam. And Shadulu was seen this morning. So where she's moved to, where the animals are hanging out, thanks Niels, where the animals are hanging out is difficult to say. There's no animals on quarantine on this side. And often when you find that, if there's no animals in this area, if they're on that side or that side, it means that something has been pushing them, or at least causing them a bit of distress in the evening. It's very common for a cat to go and have a drink and then go back to a kill, or maybe they were just walking. So it's nice to check these areas to see if any tracks. It is fresh in the morning, and what's nice is yesterday was so windy, so the wind will have blown tracks yesterday. The freshness will be quite obvious today. Celeste, you reckon the clearings are so soothing? Well, I suppose they are very soothing to the eye. especially when you get that wonderful sunrise coming up on the other side, or in the late afternoon, the sunset setting in the west, dropping some gorgeous light on this open area. There's something about open areas and light, beautiful, beautiful light. I've taken some incredible photos of light like that in the Mara with those open areas, which has been very, very special. I've been doing quite a few Mara pictures of late from last year's migration, which I've been popping on Instagram. And it has been splendid to revisit some of those times with the wildebeest crossings and millions of wildebeest, it seems, on those open plains. Okay, so we're just going to check here very carefully. As I said, the wind will have blown any track from yesterday, will have been eradicated, or the edges would have blown down. So anything fresh will be quite obvious to see. So let's see if we can find you some fresh tracks. And while we carry on doing that, Lauren is loving her last day over there with the hyenas.
I am indeed, Steve. It's good to have him back. Now we've repositioned, so we've got a bit of a better view. We could hear a leopard sawing. That's actually why Ribbon popped her head up earlier. It's very difficult to try and determine where it's coming from when it's only a once-off sound. So we took a bumble, we're back, but there's another vehicle waiting to come in to see the hyenas, so we'll probably stay with them here as long as we can, and then we may have to pull out again. It's now a one-vehicle sighting because of that tiny little one that belongs to Corky inside. Now, if you take a look at Rybon's belly, it's very large. Someone fed very well last night. Who knows what's inside of there? It could really be anything. James, Davy and I did a bit of a clean-up yesterday because old Swazi found a black garbage bag. Yes, I don't quite know how he got his teeth onto that, but he did. He enjoyed hummus. He really enjoyed the hummus, actually. He enjoyed some yogurt. I think he preferred the hummus, though. There was mayonnaise. All sorts of delights. Swazi ate it all. So who knows what these hyenas find, but they find it. And that is a big, full belly. So that's exactly where Ribbon was yesterday, feeding. I wonder if we'll get a view of the small one today. It's very cold, so I imagine it probably won't wake up right now because Mama's not here. But it's getting braver. And it's got those two boys to look after it. Okay, we're going to sit tight here, but I believe Clive's cheetahs have caught something.
All right, welcome back. So these cheetah moved into these bushes here in front of us. We were on a road just back there watching them from quite far with binoculars, and it looks like the mother had caught an impala. Now, I can't find exactly where it was, so I just wanted to stop and listen as well to see if I could figure out exactly where she had caught this impala. But it was somewhere right here. Can you see it?
There she is, right there.
Oh, there. Okay. Okay, we've got her. Can you see from there, or should I go forward? Okay, so we've got her here. My word, this is amazing. For her to have been so skinny and hungry, to have now caught an impala, is really, really, like, for the cubs, it's so important. All right, we'll show you now. It sounds like everyone is sharing the same excitement as us, and I'm sure the cheetah as well. Okay, so we're going to zoom in there, and you'll be able to see her. It looks like she's still actually holding the impala by the throat. But this is so important for these hungry cubs and for her, for the hungry mother too. It's always sad for the impala, but I'm very happy for the cheetah. So I don't think the cubs know exactly what's going on. I can hear them calling. I don't know if you heard that, like that bird-like chirp about 30 seconds ago. That sounded like the cubs are somewhere around here calling for the mother, but they're not exactly sure where she is, and obviously she can't let go of the impala to call them in. So she's going to wait until that impala is dead, and then as soon as it is, she's going to stop and she's going to call the cubs, and they will come and eat as well. Wow, wow, wow. Kimberly, she has done well. Yes, she's being a very good mother. Okay, there. So the impala is dead. And now she's looking around. Look at that. So it's always so, with cheetah, it's always such a scary, I suppose is the right word, but such a dangerous time for them. It's straight after the kill, because obviously the sound the impala made is going to attract attention of unwanted predators like hyenas or even leopard or lion. So she's just making 100% sure that she's safe around here before she calls the cubs and before she starts eating. I think we should hear, in the next minute or so, we should hear her calling the cubs. There, listen. Listen to this call. Can you hear that? Vivid, you're asking how many times a cheetah will kill in a week? They would try every maybe third or fourth day, but they might not be successful very often. Like these ones, geez, just judging by how thin those bellies are, I think they haven't eaten for a little while. She's still calling the cubs. I hope they're not too far away. Okay, I can hear one of them replying. Come on, little cubs. They're going to be so excited when they get back here. I think they knew what was going on because I saw all of them running, and they didn't really know what was going on, but the mother was obviously the one that caught it. Oh, okay, there's one of the cubs. I've just seen one of the cubs come out. Oh, both of them. Okay, so all of them are here now. Oh, lovely. I don't think they know where the impala is yet, but they're just a few meters off to the left, so not far away. I'm sure the mother will take them there now. Oh, this is so incredible. It's amazing to see when the mother comes back to the carcass and finds the cubs. There, she's going to take them back now. There we go. I think one of them has smelt it or something. Oh, I think they're going to be so excited that there's some food now. They're not too sure what to do. They're like just standing there watching the carcass now. It's like they're waiting for mom to say, okay, now you can go eat. But I think now is the part of learning where the mother's teaching them that they have to, before they start eating, they have to just relax for a little bit and make sure there's no other predators around. You can see the mother's actually drooling. yeah, the mother's actually drooling. You can see she's panting a lot as well, so she obviously chased this impala quite a bit. So she's going to rest. Victoria, yes, this impala will be plenty for these 3 cheetah. They'll probably be here they'll definitely be here for the rest of the day. I'd say even by later this evening, there's probably still going to be quite a bit of meat left on the impala. In which case, they might even be here tomorrow morning. I'm not too sure. We might have to come and check up on them a bit later this afternoon. It's always, I find it so fascinating with these cheetah to actually watch them doing what they do, hunting, running fast like that. It is really incredible. Look at that drool coming off the mother's mouth from the wind. Shame. And if you look at her chest, she's panting very, very hard. So it's also, this time is also good to look out for predators, as I was saying, but I guess it's also a very good time for her to catch her breath. I can imagine with those little young ones, they haven't formed their teeth well yet, so they haven't got big strong teeth like the mother. So for them it's going to be very hard to actually break open the skin of the impala. So they might actually wait for the mother to do that. Ooh, might happen. No, she's going to lie down. So they might actually do that first. Wait for the mother to open the impala up, and then they'll actually go and eat. But I think the mother wants to take a bit of time and catch her breath first. Well, what an exciting morning this has been. We're going to spend a little bit more time here. We want to see when the mother starts feeding and when the cubs start feeding. But let's let you carry on while we do that.
Cheetahs hunting this morning, that is insane. So holding fingers, crossing thumbs, the other way around, holding thumbs, crossing fingers that they make their way down and have a feast this morning. With our lion search, it's actually really, really cool. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and because it's still so nice and cool, it does sound like these lions might be on the move. And one of the vehicles that's slightly further ahead of us, so slightly further west, has actually just heard some lions calling. He thinks that it could have just been one male, so it might be one of the dominant males in the area trying to catch up with the pride, or maybe it's him moving away from the pride, or whatever the case may be. But we're going to try and do a nice big loop. Let me actually show you quickly. I think it will be nice and easy for you to see. So here we go. If this is the map of Ngala, we started off the morning basically driving down like this, and now we are heading along here. And then he heard the lions calling, he thinks somewhere along this road over here. And so what we're going to do is just go up the road, see if there's any tracks of them. If not, we'll head towards a really nice big waterhole in the west over there. And that's hopefully where they might have ended up sometime last night or so. So we'll keep driving. And now it's time to, now that we have an idea of where these lions might be, to change the tactics from just driving slowly and not missing a thing to trying to get into the area and catch them before they start settling down for the day. So I'll pick up my speed and just hopefully see if we can see some last activity if we do manage to find them. Sarah, I'm glad you appreciate the maps. I think it's also really a lot easier to see it visually than for me to explain north, south, east, west waterholes. It might be sometimes a bit confusing. So those maps are actually really nice. So this is an area where these lions have been hanging around for the last week or so, but they tend to not stick around this area for too much. So they often will come in, spend a night or two around this area, and then they tend to head back into the central parts where the river is. And I think it might be because of the density of animals back there is much higher than around here. They tend not to be as successful when they're looking for something to hunt around here. So it might mean that they need to travel less to find food if they head towards the river. So they might just come and quickly do a quick little patrol of their territory, make sure there's no lions trying to take over their spot, and then they turn around and head straight back. But what Nikki was explaining, so Nikki was explaining that young lioness was there, so you never know, maybe we get to see the cubs. But whilst we search and get into that area nice and quickly, let's go and see if those cheetahs have started eating yet.
Thanks, Eric. The cheetah have not started eating yet, but I'm sure in the next 10-15 minutes, although she's up and looking at it, maybe even sooner. Anyway, we'll see. We're definitely going to wait here either way. We'll wait here for them to start feeding. But with it being such a windy day, obviously all these bushes around here are rustling and making noise, so straight away they're not going to be able to hear if any animals are coming. So she's very nervously just looking around and just making sure that it's safe. Now it's very open on the other side of these bushes, which is probably where they first saw this impala. And she might have been chasing it through that open area, but a cheetah and impala are relatively evenly matched in speed in an open area. But as soon as they get into a thicker area like this, you know, maybe there was a branch, there's like a fallen over branch there just close to where the impala was, so maybe the impala like tripped on a branch. But it looked, as soon as I saw them, they came around these bushes, and the mother already kind of half had it, and it was like just ahead of the mother, and she kept catching onto it, and then she took it down right in that little gap there. So it's a bit of a harder area for an impala to get away, so maybe she even chased it here almost on purpose, because she knows she's maybe a bit more agile than the impala. Either way, the cubs and her have a meal now. James, that's actually a very good question, because that sound that she was making and that the cubs were making in return almost sounds like a bird. That's what I think. It sounds very bird-like. And it could be a way to that, you know, like if a lion heard that, maybe it thinks, oh no, it was just a bird, or a hyena or a leopard or something. I don't know, to tell you the truth. I've never seen like a lion or a leopard or anything react to the sound of a cheetah. It'll be very interesting to see though, but I think they would probably think it was just a bird, which is why it's not a loud call. They don't want to attract too much attention to themselves. They'd rather have a bit of a softer call where they can just call each other without attracting too much attention. Look at that, even the cub is helping out on the lookout duty now. This mom has done very, very well for her little cubs. And this is going to help them to obviously grow up stronger by having a good constant supply of protein. It's going to help them to grow up stronger. They're learning obviously amazing lessons from their mother. That cub looks uncomfortable. It's come on mom, let's eat now. Very interesting to see how this all goes down. I'm sure it will be the mother that goes first, as I was saying. But it almost looks like the cubs want to go there as well now. Megan, that is exactly what I was saying. She's a great cheetah mom. Yeah, she's done well. She's raising these cubs well as well. Now this cheetah actually had, let me just think back now, this cheetah did have 4 if I remember right, or was it 3? Might have been 3, sorry, I think she had 3 cubs at one stage. But since in the last maybe 2 months or so she's lost one of them. I don't know what happened. We didn't see them for a very long time. They actually moved right up to the north of the reserve. They were born more down in the south, that's where people first saw them. Then they moved right up to the north of the reserve for a little while, but they seem to have come back down this side now. But somewhere along the line she did lose one of those cubs. Which happens with cheetah especially. They have a very high mortality rate in the youngsters. Which is also why they have so many cubs. You'll see with leopards and, lions, and leopard actually. Leopard, you know, they only have 2, maximum like 3 cubs. With lions, they're going to have also 2 or 3 normally, sometimes a little bit more, but normally that amount. And with cheetah, sometimes, apparently up in the north of the reserve, I haven't seen them yet, but there's actually a mother with 6 cubs at the moment. Small little cubs still, which I haven't seen, but I would love to at some stage. So while these cheetah are sitting and staring at their food, I'm going to wait a little bit longer until they start feeding, but we'll send you across to Lauren with a monkey up in a tree.
A vervet monkey. Almost exclusively the only monkeys that you will find in the Lowveld, the vervets. Looking very innocent, actually. Oh, yummy. And I can assure you they're not. We had to leave the hyena den, I'm afraid. It's became very popular. Ribbon is famous. But once it's available again, we will go back. So we're just taking a bumble. And we found a vervet. There's actually a few of them. They're not all easy to see. This is the best view. And being highly, highly visual animals, sitting at the very, very top of this tree, it's really high up. Davy will give you a view of exactly how high this monkey is perched. Look at that. Right at the top. They obviously don't have any fear of heights. Height gains them the advantage to see, to be able to see far and wide, to know what's going on and get the best food. Now this is definitely a male, just in case any of you were curious, and normally per troop there's only one dominant male. So although they run around and cause a lot of trouble, troops of vervet monkeys are actually very structured. They have a strict hierarchy. And the males are always at the top. So the complete opposite to hyenas. But one thing similar to hyenas, I guess, is that the offspring, they get their rank, whether they're dominant or not, they get it from their mother. Females have a strict hierarchy. There's some females that are far more dominant than others. And when you're born, you get your rank from your mother. So that aspect is very similar to hyenas. And again, being high ranked will give you better access to food and also better access to sleeping sites. Heather, I agree. This is a very chilled monkey. They're not always like that when they're terrorizing our camp. I mean, you never eat breakfast or dinner. Well, dinner you do, but you never eat breakfast or lunch alone in our camp. There's always many eyes on the roof watching you. You're never alone. Eyes on the prize. They know exactly how to navigate the kitchen. I was cooking one day and I turned my back stupidly, and one monkey ran and went straight for the box of bananas and grabbed our whole stash of bananas and ran. Yes, they're very brave. Not scared of me in any way, shape or form, but they do show fear towards males. So for example, Steve, Davi, James, BK, they react very differently to them than they do to the likes of myself or Trishala. They're really not scared of myself or Trishala. Okay, what wonderful views we're getting of this monkey. Now while this individual is monkeying around, we're going to keep bumbling and see what else we can find.
Alright, so it looks like these cheetah are moving in, and it looks like the cubs might actually be playing with it almost. Okay, the mother's also going in now. Alright, I think this is where she's gonna start feeding. Now, even though this impala is already dead, the cubs look like they're actually playing with it, so they were holding the neck. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on, just behind the mother. Look at that. So they're actually holding the neck. They're practicing like where to bite to suffocate the impala. And again, it's all part of their practice. Look at this. I think it's also a bit of excitement from these little cheetahs. Shame. Look. See how the mother now... no, she's coming back out, don't worry. I thought she was moving to the back side of the impala, which is where she would start feeding. That's the softest part and the easiest part of the impala for her to bite open and get inside. So probably around the rump or under the stomach, under the belly. There we go, she's coming back again. Let's see, maybe she'll open it up for the cubs now. But they're playing and biting and fighting. I think they're very happy they've got some food now. Look at this. Yo. Looks like he's biting the impala's ear. I think that's what's going on. Look at them. Having the best time. Yeah, so if they knew, or if they could open that by themselves, they probably would have, but I think they realize they can't, and they don't really maybe know what they're doing, and they're waiting for the mom to do it. But in the meantime, they're just going to play. I can't believe this. This is incredible to watch. It really is. And to watch them learning all these little life skills that are going to help them survive. Okay, there we go. Look at the mom. She's dragging it a bit. Trish, you say maybe they're tenderizing the meat. Yeah, I suppose like us with one of those little hammer things, tenderizing the meat. Maybe them playing and biting and throwing it around like that is doing the same. Okay, there we go. She's just pulling it. Cubs are like, hey, wait, no, bring that back. Ooh, the mother's in a bit of an awkward spot for us to see what she's going to do now. Now, where that one cub is lying is where the head of the impala is. You can see he's still playing with the ears and playing with everything there. Look at them, both of them playing with it. Wow. But the mother is dragging it further behind those dead bushes, which is going to be a little bit tough for us to see nicely, I think. But she's dragged it a bit, and now she's moving away again. I think a lot of you are saying that it's safer in the deeper bush, and I think you're right, especially again on a windy day like this. They're in a bit of shelter there, and I think it's actually a good thing. We can like literally just see them through there, but I think they've got a nice safe spot now for them to carry on eating. You can see how the wind is rustling all these bushes around here. Looks like the one is actually feeding. I don't know if it's even possible to see it really on the camera, but it seems like might have just opened up a little bit and they might be able to get to some meat. Michelle, you're saying the mom looks very nervous, and yeah, for those exact reasons I was explaining, she is very nervous. You know, the impala was making quite a lot of noise when she caught it. Plus it's, you know, which might attract other animals, plus it's windy, so it's hampering her ability to hear or smell other animals close by. So she is definitely nervous, and she's got three cheetahs to look after, not just herself, which is definitely not easy, especially when the younger ones, because they're shorter and in this long grass and these sticks and the bushes around here, it's definitely harder for them to run, and they definitely can't run as fast as she can. Normally at this time in the morning there's lots of bird calls, nice and early time, but I think with this wind this morning there's even not too many birds out. I think what we're going to do, we're going to leave these cheetah. They've dragged it off into that thicket where, as we were talking about, they feel safer now. And we can't see it too well in there, so I think we're going to leave them in peace. They are going to carry on eating the impala. They'll definitely still be here this afternoon unless they get chased off. So I think it might be worth us stopping in again this afternoon. But I think I'm going to carry on and see what else I can find. And in the meantime, we'll send you across to Dylan.
about the audio with Dylan. I'm sure it will be sorted out very soon. We've again changed our tactics, because we managed to hear one of the lions calling off to the left of us, and we sat in the same position for about 10 or maybe closer to 15 minutes, and we haven't heard it again. So it has either stopped calling and decided to rest, or it's walked and we might have missed it. So I think because we've still got a few of our trackers working the area on foot to the right of us, we're going to start making our way directly towards that waterhole to see if there's any changes there. I fear that, and it's already 8:30, the temperature's starting to increase quite quickly now, so there's a good chance that it might have settled down, and if it has, it just means that we'll have to come back this afternoon and try and find it for you again. But you never know, it's not over. We've still got another hour or so of searching, and hopefully we'll be able to find them. If not this morning, we'll find them this afternoon. M says, I don't have an hour, I've got 57 minutes, so just reminding me. Oh, but it's quite interesting, because it is definitely a male that was calling, and he was by himself, and so he might have been on the scent of the pride of lions, and he might have thought that he was getting really close, and that was the reason why he was calling, is because he thought that he might be able to get a response from one of the other pride members, and he'll be able to find them like that. So I've got a good feeling that they are somewhere close to this area. We just need to try and figure out exactly where. So I would imagine, I mentioned that male might be resting, but I think the rest of the pride would probably be resting too by now. So nice patches of shade like this and short patches of grass is really the best place at this time of day to be looking for these lions. And then of course every now and again just making sure that we don't see their tracks on the road. Yeah, so like I say, we'll slow down a bit and try and have a look at some tracks on the road, see if we can find those lions, but apparently Steve has got some tracks to show you. So let's see what he has.
So, hello everybody. We have found wonderful marks on the floor. You see this line here on the ground. Oh, there goes my radio. That's what we call a drag mark. Now, further back there we found tracks of a female leopard, tracks of 2 wild dogs, and now this wonderful drag mark in the ground. Hyena tracks, hyena tracks. It's come all the way from the back over there, and it's going straight to the den. For about 100 meters up here, there was actually a female leopard following. Over here, though, is the track of a hyena on top of it. Can you see that, Niels? It's not very clear. 3 or 4 hyenas following that drag mark, the leopard following that drag mark, but it looks as if wild dogs might have done something. The leopard didn't seem to be too involved in the actual activity, but the wild dogs probably made a kill and they got stolen. And this hyena dragging it all the way back with more hyenas following. So very, very interesting to see. Can you see the mark on the ground here? Sometimes you can get confused with that, but this is the hair of an animal being pulled, and sometimes like this, a leg or a horn or whatever it might be, but that is the design of the hyena with that backward slope. Yeah, this might be a bit easier to see. Niels, you see that one? There's a hyena track in there, and you can see that this is walked on top of that drag mark. So further back there, the leopard was walking on top. Now when a leopard, if you look closely over here, you can actually see fur. I don't know if you can see that, little lines in the sand. It's very fresh, not from very long ago, but it's probably an animal such as Ribbon, being a matriarch, who would have dragged this back to the den for people to have a little munch on. How long ago exactly? Sometime this morning. But how cool is that? So Shadulu was following this. Her tracks were following, and they got 100 meters or so, and then they've stopped. So I'm not sure where she's gotten to now. she probably realized, oh, that's way too far for me to be moving. Okay, well, no doubt it's going to be heading straight to the den site, and we're going to jump back into the car. If I could just get this on my belt, back into the car, and we're going to carry on.
We have proof of life. There are meerkats in these holes. They are like little ice lolly meerkats this morning. Sure. One actually popped up about 2 minutes ago, literally stuck its head out and went straight back down again. And that's where this one is sitting out. It was the hole closest to Jandro there, and now this little one's come out. I'd be interested to see how long it's going to actually take the rest of them to come out, but it is really, really cold. And apologies, we had a little bit of a break in our comms there earlier. But what I was starting to say there is I'm actually really, really worried about the potential survival of these pups that are downstairs here. The reason I say that is with these small body size, these little meerkats are burning through energy at a phenomenal rate. You know, they've got a large surface area relative to body mass, so they lose heat or lose energy very, very quickly, and they've got to keep on, you know, topping up, and through feeding and foraging. And with, you know, if you've got a very, very short stint in terms of a cold front, it's like you're in for 1 or 2 days, that's kind of okay. This one that we're in for can push right through to Wednesday, maybe even Thursday next week, which is really going to impact on their foraging time, their foraging ability, because they'll be going through a huge amount of energy even while they're out foraging, but they have to, because they don't have a choice. So I'm just a little bit worried about that, but anyway, there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. But I think we should all be holding thumbs that this group actually makes it through and these pups actually survive over the next couple of weeks. You know, I don't want to paint a rosy picture and then we find something goes wrong. But let's hold thumbs. I mean, you know, they've evolved over millions of years on these African savannas with these kind of conditions. This is nothing unusual for them, and you know, I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, let's say. Noel, now that's a good question there that you've asked. Noel has asked, do the meerkats actually close up the burrow entrances at night in order to keep the warmth in? They don't. Okay, there are species that are known to dig up sand behind them, and not necessarily, and it's not normally for thermoregulation, it's more for a defense. Aardvark are known to do that, honey badgers have even been known to do that, and pangolins as well. But it's not normally for thermoregulation. I've never seen meerkats doing that. I've never seen ground squirrels or mongoose, any of them. And I think these burrows are also actually pretty well sheltered. So once they're underground, you know, and also because these burrows are like pretty much blind burrows, they're dead ends. So it's not like you're going to get like wind blowing in and like whistling out the other side. So it's not like they're sitting in a wind tunnel, you know, freezing. So I think the burrows are super stable. All the studies that have been done on, you know, burrow systems in the Kalahari indicate that between 30 to 50 centimeters under the ground, this temperature becomes very, very stable through summer and winter. So I think they don't have too much to worry about while they're underground.
So we've managed to find this, seems like a giraffe morning, and there's a giraffe with a migration of monkeys just behind. The giraffe is coming down to drink at Ndlovu Dam, just close to our eco training camp. It's becoming very, very comfortable. It looks uncomfortable right now, to be fair. Oh, watch this, it's going to flick its head up as it finishes drinking. It's awesome when they do that. Oh, see that? It's trying to get that real... It's trying to get all that water off the tip of its fluffy chin. This is a male, a very large giraffe. You can see by the smooth horns on the top of its head. This is a very big giraffe, and it's probably in its prime right now. and still quite nervous though, even though it's a very large animal. When it's got its head down and it's drinking, it's a very vulnerable position, so it still needs to be very, very aware of what's around. And being very tall, it can see over most of the bushes and things. So there's a few of our students are in our camp, so every now and again it looks over towards where the camp is, probably catching some movement of people going about their morning routines. And a lot of our students are busy doing exams, so they're busy studying. Well, I hope they're studying. Better be studying. He's coming down to drink again. Watch how the legs bend to get its body as low as possible to that water. It looks very, very uncomfortable. That's why you never see them doing it for very long. They'll just drink for usually a few seconds at a time before getting up again. It's not an easy position. If anyone's tried to do a half squat for more than a few seconds, very tough. There it is. Just having a bit of a drink. Alright, so of course when we say it's going to do one thing, it does the opposite, and this one's about to have the longest drink a giraffe has ever had in its whole history. Oh, it's just so majestic. And Peaches, it's like you're stretching. I mean, that's very impressive. If you can stretch like that, I am very jealous. I don't know if I can stretch like that. You got to have, well, I don't know, you've either got a very long neck or very long legs. Or both. Why not both? Look at that. That looks super uncomfortable, unbelievable. What would that be, a downwards facing giraffe? Not a downwards facing dog. Sun worshipping. That's so, it looks, I don't know, its legs look like insect legs. It's got so many random bends here and there. But of course their legs are different to our legs. Remember, they have their joints in slightly different places. Remember, what we're seeing, the feet are not it's not the whole foot like our foot would be. That's just literally the toenails. And then the toes would end where that first little bulbous bump is. And then the heel is basically where that thing that looks like a knee is. I suppose that's how you would sort of say it. Oh, how super hard is that? You can almost see the neck. Look at the neck. You can actually see those lumps as the water gets pulled up its neck all the way. Remember, it has to have very, very strong neck muscles to force that water backwards up its long neck. You ever try to drink water upside down? Super uncomfortable. I know I do it sometimes when I'm trying to get rid of hiccups. I wonder if a giraffe ever tries to get rid of hiccups that way. Leaping, that bending is crazy. It's mad when you think about it because, I mean, we're mammals as well, so we have similar sort of body parts like shoulders and elbows and knees and that kind of stuff, but its are just in a different structure to ours. So it's bending in a certain way. You can almost imagine if we had to bend like that, if we put our like bum in the air and then leaned forward on our front legs, it would probably also look kind of crazy. Gerrit's laughing at me. I can hear him in the background. Yes, Gerrit, I know a bunch of weird stuff right now. I hope everyone is at least enjoying it, finding it a bit comical this morning, or this evening, wherever you are. The giraffe certainly does not like the comparisons that I'm making to myself, looking very odd, bending over. So the giraffe is heading on. So we're going to send you over whilst this giraffe looks very offended.
We've just come to this waterhole and look what we found sitting on the dam wall itself. It's awesome. We've got two of these lionesses and we found them here. And so they obviously came up to just get some nice morning sun. But if we have a close look at them, what I find super interesting, and this one that's in front around her face, look at how red that is. And so she's definitely had something to eat. But now if we stick on that same lioness and we pan down to the very end of her tail, look, it's missing, completely gone. And so this is part of a pride that we weren't actually looking for. We just stumbled across. But they are distant relatives of the Birmingham pride. And so these ones, we call them the Birmingham breakaway pride. And it is also quite a big pride. I think it's about 14 or 15 individuals. But what's even more exciting is we got the call from the trackers who said that they've actually seen the Birmingham Pride on the right-hand side of this waterhole, and they are approaching, and it looks like they might be interested in hunting those zebras over here. And so I don't want to move too much because we're in the prime spot to see it unfold if they do happen to chase. We got a nice elevation, we're at a distance, and if those lions happen to stalk towards the zebra, there's a very good chance that we could kind of see an interaction between what these lions would do, and I would imagine they'll turn and run away from a big pride. But you never know. You always think because they are distant relatives, they almost share a boundary in the western part of their territories. So you never know what could happen. I actually haven't seen, I'll use my binoculars. So the vehicle is basically directly to the right of us. And I think these lions at the moment are just using the shade of the bushes around the waterhole. So we haven't seen them yet. Have you got some jackals? Okay. So there's a jackal and a vulture on the ground there too. And that might have been from when this other pride of lions, the Birmingham Breakaway Pride, maybe made a kill somewhere there. And if there's one vulture on the ground and one jackal, it might have been something small, maybe a small little impala or something like that. And then those zebras. Yeah, so there's definitely something that's going to happen quite soon, but it doesn't seem like it's happening quite yet. So we're just going to sit tight and see what happens. But it does sound like Clive has got another pride of lions, so let's go and see what his lions are up to.
Well, we definitely have found something similar, except we know which lions these are. That sounds very interesting that it's a different pride, or I don't know what the dynamics are that's happening on Ngala, but this is one of the Biala males with one of the lionesses from Mountain Pride. And if I'm not mistaken, also over the past week or so, you guys have been seeing these two lions, and I think these must be the tracks that I saw when we were looking for the cheetah earlier. They came this direction, but someone that was out, and while we were with the cheetah, they found these two lions. So we thought we would come here and just see what's going on. But it looks like they are using this nice open patch to get a bit of sunshine and warm up a little bit on this nice chilly windy day. That is a really impressive male lion though. Like, that mane is huge and dark, and even the female, she's just got a beautiful face. And so apparently a lot of people are asking if this is a mating pair, and it's a bit of a strange one because apparently a few days ago they were mating, yes. I asked the people who found these lions just now, I asked if they were mating, and they said no. It sounded like the male was trying, but the female was having none of that. So I haven't seen them mating yet, but it could be, you know, when they do mate, they'll be together for a good few days, 3-4 days. So we could be kind of at the end of that. They might be trying to find the rest of the pride now to kind of get back to all the other lions. But they're not mating right now. I think what I might do, I might just reposition us a bit. I'm going to go around in front of them so that we can see their faces. That is how they were lying just before you we came onto your screen, but then they got up and moved just before that. So I'm just going to reposition us a little bit in front. Let's get a nice view of their faces. Oh, it's definitely nice and warm here in the sun. I can see exactly why they have chosen to lie where they are. I just want to show you, especially this lioness. She is just so big and beautiful. Right, we're gonna show you these two looking very regal there. Look at that. Such a nice view. You can see their eyes are closing a bit. They're having a good rest here in the sun. But while we sit with these lions warming up in the sun, we'll go across to Lauren, who's got a hyena doing exactly the same.
Oh, she is. Our beach babe here is warming herself in the sun, also known as Ribbon. Now, we've came back, and it appears the cubs have popped back inside, but I think it's worth waiting. I really do, especially if we can get a glimpse of Corky's little one again. Now, we were actually behind Steve when he was showing you all the drag marks. You can see the drag marks going all the way up the road, and guess where they head? In the direction of the hyena den. Yes, they do. I think they're not fresh from this morning. I think it's from last night, and the carcass is right here. Davi's going to show you in just a moment. There you go. That's the carcass. That's my speculation. Ribbon is well known for doing that. Hyenas are well known for doing that, dragging carcasses. And that's why they're more powerful at the front end of their body. That's why they have that big long neck. Excuse me, I just sneezed. Sorry, Ribbon. I think I just woke her up. But yes, I think the bones will possibly be somewhere around here. And I think it was Ribbon. I think she stole the carcass. I don't quite know who the carcass belonged to, but I would imagine a leopard of some sort. I don't think Shadulu, because we were hot on the heels of Shadulu this morning. We just couldn't catch her. But I could also be wrong. It could have been Shadulu's carcass, and then she came to the damn camp for a drink. But it's definitely Ribbon who stole it, I'm convinced. A beautiful bulbous body. And when you think of a hyena approaching a leopard and stealing a large carcass and pulling it that great distance, it's quite phenomenal. It really shows you how strong they are. Oh no, girl, don't leave us. Look at that body. Mythical, that is a great question, because the answer is everything. Everything. I think I'm going to follow her because it appeared like she heard something. She's waddling. She's doing the I'm too full waddle. We're not allowed to stay at the den anyway, so we are going to follow. But mythical, they eat anything and everything. They are said to be the most efficient carnivore in Africa. Most carnivores only utilize about 40% of their kill. 40%, that's not much. But hyenas will utilize everything. They crunch through bones. The only thing they really don't eat is the rumen contents of a stomach of a herbivore, because they are clearly not herbivorous. And they sometimes leave horns and hooves. But they can also eat the horns and hooves and regurgitate them later. Their stomach acid is so incredibly acidic, really, really low on that pH scale, hydrochloric acid, and it basically just blasts everything that enters into their stomach. That's why hyenas have never been properly impacted by rabies, anthrax, canine distemper, because the pathogens and the bacteria don't even make it into the bloodstream. They're not even absorbed into the body, because immediately the acid just kills all the bacteria and pathogens. It's incredible. They have one of the strongest stomach acids in the animal kingdom, and they can just eat anything. No matter how rotten or putrid or, well, really disgusting and vile a carcass is, hyenas will eat it. And they like hummus. We could have actually reused that tub without cleaning it. Swazi cleaned it so well. There wasn't a single drop of hummus left in that tub. That's true, Emma. Who doesn't like hummus? That's a better question. Okay, I just want to follow. She could just be going for a drink. There's a little pan up here. And Ribbon actually did this before. She was obviously thirsty because it's got sort of warmer. Or she's going to investigate something. So I'm going to follow Miss Ribbon here. And it appears that Eric is following his lions.
So we're still with these two lions who actually came down to have a quick drink, and then they're starting to move away in the opposite direction of where the other pride of lions is, and that's such a good view of that short tail. And it's so helpful that she's got that short tail, and it's such a standout feature. We so easily can identify her, and so we know exactly she's pretty much the oldest female of the Birmingham Breakaway Pride, and she could very well be one of the nieces of the two oldest lionesses of the Birmingham Pride. I'm just going to move forward again, see if we can get another view of them. There's a small little waterhole on this other side of the dip, and then after that it gets very, very dense, and so we might only have them for another few minutes. If we lose them within the next few minutes, we'll loop around to that other pride. But can you believe it? Two different prides of lions from basically who share common ancestry are within less than 200 meters from each other. Really quite special. So this is, so we know, I mean, we actually saw her in 2011 when she was about 4 or 5 months old. And since we've been seeing her at that 4 or 5 months old, she didn't have a tail. So we're not entirely sure how her tail was lost. But the very, very interesting thing about her is when she was that age, her mother actually died of TB, which means that she essentially got adopted by some of the older lionesses of the Pride. And so these two older lionesses of the Birmingham Pride could very well have suckled her. And then I think it was in 2012 or so is when there was too many lions in the Pride, and they actually ended up splitting up. And a few of them went one way, and then the rest of them stuck in this area. So let's see, you might just be able to see the edge of the waterhole here. I'd love to know where the rest of these lions' pride is. And so these lionesses are definitely some of the biggest. Their genes are so pure. It really is some of the biggest lionesses that I've ever seen. And I mean, I'll see if we can just get another view of them before they disappear to the waterhole. But this lioness, the one in Flicula, is huge, and she is just so muscular. See, she's got some blood on her face. They had a quick little stop and a scan here, and they're probably just watching the waterhole to see if there is anything that might be coming down to drink. So both of them have stopped. She's got really, really golden eyes. They're very light in color. You can still see that blood, but her belly isn't completely full, so I think it definitely was something quite small, and probably an impala. And so now we've got the other lioness coming up. I thought they might stand side by side, but she's slightly smaller. And so she's definitely a younger lioness. So maybe even her daughter. But also in such good condition. And see, they are interested. And I mean, this is the area where we've been thinking these lions have been calling the whole morning. And so maybe that's why they're just so alert. can actually hear a lion calling in the distance. Far away. Exactly where those lionesses are looking is where I heard those lions calling, but very, very far away. And it's interesting how that the lioness with the tail, so that you can definitely see that one without the tail is the one in charge, because the one without the tail seems to be in the lead, and the other one won't really move in front of her. But they're just about to disappear into some thick bush, so we might head towards the other pride and see what they're up to.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Well, from lions moving around and disappearing into a thicket to these two lovebirds just still resting in the sun. Every now and then they get up and the female moves just a few steps, 5 or 6 meters. The male following very closely behind, not letting her very far out of his sight at all. And then they lie down again to rest. Which, as I say, I really don't blame them. It's not the best weather today. Nice and blue skies, but a very chilly wind, so I think it's very nice. It's definitely nice for me to be sitting here with my back to the sun, and I'm sure it's the same for these lions. If you look at the male, especially, that one eye of his is very damaged, his right eye. And that, it's just turned, you won't see it now, but that happened about, when was it? Sure, probably pushing even a year now, maybe a little bit less than a year. There you'll see it again. That eye is quite sunken back and there's lots of fluid coming out still, and this is a year later. And this was from a fight with his brother. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Biala males together, the two brothers. And that was a big fight between the two of them. Like a pirate with one eye. But I think it looks like that other eye is still, looks like it's still working. But maybe not as well as the other one, or maybe it's swollen just around the eye. I don't really know, but I think he can still see. Looks like he's got another little scar on his belly. Victoria, they want to just move away from the other lions, probably more just because the male wants to stay away from the other male. Whichever male's more dominant will try and separate the female that's in estrus away from the others, and probably a lot so that the other brother can't find them. And that they have done pretty successfully. But I have also seen them with the pride mating as well, but I think only once or twice that's happened that I've seen. Most of the time it'll be separated from the rest of them. But there's definitely no mating happening today. So with these lions resting like this, I don't think they're going to be doing anything anytime soon today. I think they're just going to rest here in the sun, and when it gets too hot, maybe move into the shade. So I think we're going to carry on our drive and send you across to Steve with a very busy hornbill.
Thanks, Clive. Well, we reckon there might be an owl or a snake. It's hard to tell, but the birds have now gone quiet. We've had arrowmark babblers, go-away birds, as well as hornbills going crazy in this bush. There's a go-away bird towards the top left, and behind him is a hornbill, I think, yes. Now, they're making lots of noise, and normally when you hear that noise, you can assume there's probably an owl, a mongoose, or a snake. Now, depending on what the birds do, sometimes you will see them flying and following as the mongoose runs along the ground, specifically things like slender mongoose. Or a snake, they'll just bomb it while it's in the tree. Very hard to see the snake. We're talking about maybe a mamba or a boomslang. But if it's an owl, they will bomb it until the owl eventually flies away, and quite often they will actually chase it. Now, those of you who are new to the show will not remember Sebwig. Sebwig was a little young spotted eagle owl chick that we had, and we're right here in the river where we spent enormous amount of time with Sebwig and his family. It was very cute. Watched him from very early ages until possibly fledging, and we haven't seen him since. So I was getting very excited when all these birds were making all this noise. But of course, now that you've come to us, they've gotten all very quiet. Wonderful little jackalberry tree there. A go-away bird moving through the jackalberry. It seems as if whatever is causing these birds stress has moved off. Now, you might have heard sometimes I make the noise chip, 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 chip. It's essentially a alarm call, and it's a very good way. It's called a pshing, spelt P-P-P-S-H-H-H-I-N-G. It's basically the noise that birds make when they alarm call. And it's quite often a good way to get birds to come out and see what's going on, because birds respond very quickly to alarm calls, because strength in numbers, if one bird is already shouting at a predator, the rest of them will come together and shout at it as well. So a lot of the smaller birds especially, they respond to that. The go-away bird makes a quang, quang, and there's a kurr, 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 kurr. Interesting sound, and the hornbill that you just saw there makes their little cooing sound repetitively. But they've all gone very quiet, which means that whatever was causing them a hard time seems to have gone away.
Finally, and I don't want to speak too soon, but the wind is dying down. There's still a breeze, but it's died down a lot over the past 10 minutes. So I'm really hoping that it settles. If it does, the temperature will pick up nicely. You can see the meerkats have responded to that as well. They definitely okay, that can't be. Oh geez, for a moment I thought there was a little meerkat there, but it's not. Anyway, these meerkats should be adults by the time they come out these burrows. So let's hold thumbs. Yeah, it's definitely just one of the sub-adults. So there's no that I'm seeing. So there's no sign of the pups yet, but these pups are very, very close to the surface, and it's not going to be long now. But I don't think in this kind of weather, I would be very surprised if they were actually brought out in these cold conditions. So you can still see the movement on the grass behind that one meerkat. So there is still a breeze, but it's died down a lot compared to what it was earlier today. So I think if it warms up, they're going to be heading out and getting some food. They do not like this cold weather. Yes, they're even keeping their bodies so they're facing the sun, but they're trying to keep as low as possible so they get sun on them, but also a bit of sheltered from the wind. Butterflies commented that the meerkats look really clean. And they are very, very clean animals. They do a lot of their own grooming, but they also do allo grooming, in other words, cleaning the other members of the group as well. And that's really important for controlling parasite loads on them, ticks, fleas, that kind of thing. And we wash them twice a week. And we use conditioner as well, which keeps the hair nice and fluffy.
Ribbon took us nowhere. She took us to her other hideout when she needs to get away from the kids. So we've came to Vuatela Dam. The wonderful sight of elephants drinking. Not jumping in though. In summer, the elephants would be jumping right in by now. Because it's winter, it's still cold. And they wouldn't. It's far too chilly to put yourself in a body of water like that. If you look at the one that's drinking, the straggler, a youngster, if you look at the body shape, you can see that it almost looks like the legs are too long for the body. I hope that makes sense. This is a sort of awkward, starting to become a teenager age of an elephant, just like a human. When humans go through that stage of almost hitting puberty, they look awkward. Some children's legs are very dangly or their arms look a bit too long, and it's just the process of growing. And of course, once they do reach adult stage of life, they will be completely in proportion as they were always meant to be. But I think this stage in an elephant is rather amusing. For some reason, it just looks awkward. I think we're going to follow them. 1 second, see, there we go, okay. Andrea, they are so great. Maybe not that run down the drainage line there, but we are going to try and keep up with them. They're walking along towards Central. But again, the wind here is definitely nowhere near as windy as it was yesterday, but it's still windy, and elephants really don't like it. Old sensitive souls. Okay, we'll get a view of them just now once we get up this awful bumpy road. There we go. Let's just watch them heading along Central there. Looks like quite a small herd, and they're staggered because, of course, elephants can communicate with one another over great distances, and therefore they can probably talk to one another. They don't need to be in visual line of sight. I just don't want to drive up alongside them right now. I'll try and see where they're heading. I think yes, they're going back into the drainage. Look at that line of bottoms. Jerry, you're saying it's an elephant conga line. Yes, it is. And we've got some dust bathing too. So I might, if they don't disappear into the drainage, we'll try and keep up with them. But we are going to send you back across to Eric with his lions.
So that big marula tree that's in the middle of the frame over there is where we followed those two lionesses away from this big water hole. And eventually they settled down in quite a big dip where we couldn't get too much signal. So we thought we would come and see where the rest of the other pride of lions was and just look exactly how close they are. And so we've got 4 of the lions of the Birmingham Pride sitting in the shade over here. And so they literally are only about, when we first started the morning, probably only about 200 or 300 meters away from one another, which is quite fascinating. And none of them are the wiser of each other, so they haven't really become aware that there are 2 different prides so close to one another. These lions, though, I think, and they were interested in some zebras, but the zebras might have caught wind of them and they turned and ran off after having something to drink. And so these lions are now deciding to rest up, and hopefully they're going to be here for the remainder of the day, because I feel like this is exactly where we're going to start our afternoon and figure out what these ones might be up to. So it's just the 4 of them at the moment. There looks like a few of the adults, but then the one on the left-hand side is the larger of the 2 white cubs, so the young male. And then the rest of the pride might be slightly further into the bushes. We haven't quite gone to go see if we can find them, but apparently they are somewhere close by here. And so I wouldn't imagine them to be moving too much either. You'll just have to think what would have happened if those 2 lionesses happened to see this pride. And I've got the feeling that from that distance they probably wouldn't have been able to recognize one another, especially because they spend so much time apart. And for just 2 lionesses to see a big pride of 14 lions would be very, very intimidating. And so I would imagine the 2 lionesses would have turned and ran into a much safer area, and probably to the rest of the pride that they've separated from. It's amazing. So if the rest of that breakaway pride is around this area, that means there's potentially a total of, let's call it 2 square kilometers. There's potentially a total of about 50 lions within 2 square kilometers around this big waterhole. So that is incredible to think about. Yeah. Giles, so when lions cross, they don't really cross into each other's territories a lot. But remember, lions have got a territory and then their home range is much bigger. And on the odd occasion, those home ranges could overlap. And if that's the case, they could encounter one another. The only time that you might find them encroaching into different territories is if they need to find food or resources, basically. So if they've run out of water in their territory, or if there's no food, then they might have to. But it's such a high risk, because these lion prides are pretty defensive against it, or pretty defensive against other lions if they come into their territories. And so if you get stranded and you get isolated by yourself, there's a chance that pride of lions could kill, even if it is another female, could kill that lion. But I think it is so dynamic, if lions start encroaching into one area of the territory, you might find the other pride, if they don't want to get into that confrontation, they could just shift their territory by a few kilometers in a slightly different direction, and they try and move around one another. So it is rather quite interesting, and it's so nice to be able to just sit and think about what could happen, because we never really know the answer until it happens in front of our eyes. And I thought this morning there was a chance of there being some sort of interaction with one another, but it doesn't seem like anything really festered. But I mean, there's that lion calling, that male lion calling. He could call again a little bit later on, which could evoke a response from this pride, maybe even the other pride, and then things could get really, really interesting. And then so it seems like their day is ending, and they're going to be sleeping for the remainder of the day. There's a couple of animals in Tswalu who seem to just be starting their day.
So the wind has really been settling nicely now. So I think it's actually going to be a better day for them for foraging, especially if it carries on like it is now. It's going to be a really good day, which means they'll actually be able to get out and get enough food. And like, you know, the only one I'm really concerned about is the alpha female, or the dominant female, which is, I think, is the one closest to me now, because she's the one that needs to be producing enough milk for the youngsters, for the pups. So the others, I mean, they can get enough, you know, food for themselves, which is absolutely fine. But it's that adult female, that alpha female, that really needs that sustenance and that energy. And you can just imagine, we've spoken about their senses, how good their eyesight is. Their hearing's kind of okay, but also their sense of smell is incredible. And especially in conditions like this, just how important that sense becomes for locating food items underneath the sand, where there's absolutely no visual cues whatsoever. Interestingly, and the meerkats were all down at the time, and the wind was still blowing very strongly, but we had two pale chanting goshawks that came racing over here, like directly over the burrows, going with the wind, and they're actually starting to go into the breeding season now, so they'll be starting to do their territorial displays, start calling. There'll be a lot of activity around, so the fact that there's a pair of them around in this area means that there's a good chance they'll be nesting somewhere fairly close by, probably within a kilometer or two of where we are now. Which means that these meerkats are going to have to be on super alert, because the moment those birds start breeding, there's going to be a lot of hunting activity in the area. So that's something to keep an eye on over the coming days. And speaking of things breeding, I am still on a mission for finding Sheldon's partner, the shelduck, and I am determined to find that for you. So I'm going to try and narrow down that area where they are nesting, and keep our fingers crossed, our toes crossed, our legs crossed, everything that can be crossed, we'll keep it crossed, and maybe we can find something on that. A little bit more activity here. They're starting to warm up, so things are looking up for these meerkats now.
From sunbathing ribbon to sunbathing monitor lizards, doing what they always do when we put them on camera. But don't be mistaken, they are ferocious predators, the ferocious appetite. And their tail, which is also known to sort of power them through the water, because they live a life on land and in the water, is a second one. The tail is solid and very muscular, and they can actually use their tail and thrash it so hard to attack predators. And it will really, really hurt a tail that hard, being whipped around with that sort of muscular power that they have. They also have an almost bulldog-like bite. Oh, they've got really powerful jaws, and when they bite, they just won't let go, almost like a bulldog. So they really can defend themselves. And if none of those tactics work, then they go for what is known as thanatosis. And what that basically means is feigning death. So you're pretending to be dead. You'll lay completely still, not move a muscle, and pretend to be dead. Many reptiles do that, but monitor lizards do it too, and it's called thanatosis. And I guess it's the backup plan when all else fails. You've tried to use your tail, didn't work. You've tried to bite, it didn't work, so you're going to pretend to be dead. But right now they're just sunbathing, getting all that solar power from the sun, as reptiles do, before they can go about their day. I've not actually seen a water monitor lizard hunting. I would really love to. They can be very aggressive, not even with potential predators or threats, but also with one another. Yvette, You are saying these are very cool lizards. Haha, yes they are. First one of the day, Yvette. Thank you. But they're soon going to be very hot lizards. We do have a male Inyala approaching the scene. He's about to walk up the embankment of the dam. I don't think he sees us. Or he possibly does, and he just wants to show off. Hello. How magnificent he is. These big horns and his big shaggy coat. Oh, what a morning it's been. No leopards, but at least we got ribbon and cubbies. So I'm going to head home for breakfast, but we're going to send you guys across to Eric for the last few moments of the drive. Oh, apparently you're still with me. Jolly good, because we have another monitor lizard on the scene. I don't know if you'll be able to get it from there, Davi. Right at the end of this. Aha! Look at this one. That's 3. So sorry, I don't quite know what happened to Eric, but I'm sure he's gone into a dodgy signal area. That's 3 water monitor lizards on this dead knobthorn. And what I was saying earlier, the males can be really, really vicious with one another. They're very territorial and they will fight. They've also got sharp claws. You can see there. Perfect view of how sharp their claws are. And they will tear chunks out of one another. They have sharp claws like that to allow them to move on land. Otherwise, they wouldn't get very far. So they've got sort of special adaptations to move through the water. And then they've got special adaptations so that they can also survive on land. There's 3 of them. I don't believe they can all be males. I think that one of them's a youngster because it's very small. They can grow really, really large, and this one is an extremely large individual. Looks very full, a bit like ribbon. Reptiles are also known to just swallow their prey. They can swallow it whole and let the digestion process break it down. I think that's what this one's definitely had a good meal at some point. And it's actually Davi's last drive this morning for a while. I'm sure he can give you a little wave, so you can see half his fingers through the glove.
Bye.
Oh, he said bye. I'll be on this afternoon, but Davi is going on vacation. I always find it so peaceful around the waterhole. So it really is time to end a fantastic sunrise safari for today. So it's very important that you all know we appreciate you jumping on board. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and we will see you this afternoon. Have a great day.